we're going to try this. I wish it was live so you could interact with me, but it is what it is. So we'll have that going next time. So here I am awkwardly speaking in a room by myself into a computer, but really I'm speaking to you, the American people, right? We'll go through this test really quick here. Hopefully you can watch it and study a little bit, and that's why you'll make a great score tomorrow on your test, your first U.S. history test in this class, and all that good stuff. So first of all, let's start out. This is post 9/11, so that's the unit name. So naturally, we're going to start before 9/11. We're going to start with the presidential election of 2000. Okay, presidential election of 2000 is the closest presidential election in history between Al Gore, the bad guy, and George W. Bush, the good guy. Unless you were a Bush fan or you were a Gore fan, then he was the good guy. But my family, like we talked about, were Bush fans, and so I remember that very well, and rooting for George W. Bush in that election. But ultimately, it came down to the state of Florida. So it was a really close race, and it came down to the state of Florida. Al Gore actually wins the popular vote. If you remember that, he actually wins the popular vote, but it's the Electoral College that counts, and it comes down to Florida, and it comes down to a few thousand votes. It's so close that the Democrats in Al Gore's camp, they want to recount. Okay, they want to do a recount, but they only want to recount in heavily Democratic counties. So George W. Bush files a Supreme Court action. He says, "Hey, Supreme Court, I don't think this is legal." The Supreme Court says, if you don't recount all the votes, you can't have a recount, because it would be against the civil rights of the people who are not getting a recount. And we don't have time to recount everybody, so George W. Bush wins. That's virtually what the ruling was in Gore versus Bush, or Gore v. Bush, and that's how the election is decided because of that Supreme Court case that was so close. George W. Bush becomes president, and his domestic agenda, of course, is messed up really quick when he on September 11th, when the terrorist attacks happen. Okay, when that happens, it leads George Bush to do several different things, and really his domestic agenda is pushed aside. And he is going to start the war on terror. Right, he's going to start the war on terror, and there are several things that he does. Okay, there are several things that he does after the war on terror. Okay. First of all, he invades Afghanistan. Okay, that's kind of one of his first response when it comes to foreign affairs. He has his Homeland Security Act. He passes the Homeland Security Act. That's the second thing. He eventually invades Iraq. Okay, that's his three big moves after the September 11th. Is those three things is what George W. Bush ultimately kind of focused on. Now, everyday life, as far as how Americans lived after 9/11, we talked about the extreme patriotism and things like that. Of course, there's better airline security. Okay, there's better airline security for Americans. There's a little bit of a dip right after the attacks. The stock market drops a little bit, so trading stops just a little bit. But it ultimately kind of evens out. It's never really great, but it evens out a little bit. There's new things in skyscrapers. People start figuring out, maybe you need a parachute, all kinds of different procedures with skyscrapers if you live in skyscrapers. And those are three big things that happen here every day. So the last two things I've said, hint, I've said three different things. That's a good indication that those two things are questions that are a not question. Which one of these did not affect everyday life in America and after September 11th? Like we said, George W. Bush goes into Afghanistan first. After he goes into when he goes into Afghanistan, he has the Northern Alliance. The Northern Alliance is a bunch of different countries that are going to go fight against the Taliban in Afghanistan. And then eventually he is going to go against Iraq. Okay, he's going to go into Iraq, and Iraq is a little bit more of a disaster. He goes in, he wins officially the Iraq War is over in like a month, but then there's an insurgency led by all kinds of groups. Okay, and one of the most popular groups that this is led by is by a guy named Muqtada al-Sadr. Al-Sadr leads an attack, or he doesn't. He's kind of a weird. He's still around today. He's not really a terrorist. He's just kind of protecting what he believed was his people, and he's kind of in one of these warlords. And today he's still around today, heavy influence today. But he's one of the most famous members of this insurgency, and so that was kind of what happens in Iraq then. And then after a while, things look fairly good in Iraq, or things are really bad in Iraq for a long time during that during the attack. But then that's when we have the 2007 surge. Okay, well, things are so bad, and it feels that power vacuum. America feels the power vacuum again, and we are able to stabilize Iraq for a little while until Barack Obama gets elected, and Barack Obama would eventually pull out of Iraq. Okay, and when Barack Obama pulls out of Iraq, it leaves that power void again, right? It leaves that power void, and when that power void is left, ISIS, this is a lot of the reasons why ISIS is able to take power, because that power void is completely gone. And that's obviously not going to be good. Sorry, I lost my test, so hold on a second. As I awkwardly look for the test. Let's see here. Still awkward. No, where'd it go? Come back to me. Come back, test. We're working on it. Edit. Preview. There we go. Nope, I lied. That is not the test. We need a little bit more awkwardness. Maybe I can edit this out, you know? Or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just let you embrace the awkwardness as I look for the test. Let's see here. Spring. And actions. Actions, what are you doing? Okay. Why are you being weird? And here we go. All right, sorry about that. Let's see here. Okay, we talked about that. We talked about that. Now, when Barack Obama becomes president, okay, so that's kind of the big picture of George W. Bush. I don't think we're not going to know a lot of his policies when the big picture of American history. His domestic policies are just covered up because of his war on terror, or our war on terror. I don't know why I say his. I mean, September 11th really screws up the things that he wants to do as presidency. But Barack Obama becomes president, and Barack Obama is handed a kind of a bad hand, right? He's got the war in Iraq. Okay, the war in Iraq, it's kind of stabilized, but now what do you do? At what point do you pull out? At what point, what exactly do with Iraq? He has the major housing crisis. Okay, the housing bubble has completely collapsed. Houses are dirt cheap, foreclosed houses everywhere. It was absolutely insane. I actually bought my first house during this bubble bust, and it was insane. There were cheap houses everywhere. It was absolutely crazy. Unemployment was obviously going up, and he was dealt a really bad hand. He had some really tough issues to deal with in the 8 years that he was in office, and how he handled some of those, it's kind of up for debate. But he has the bailouts. Okay, one thing he does, and George Bush actually does this too. He bails out banks. One of the big bailouts that Barack Obama has is the automotive industry. Okay, he bails out Chrysler and General Motors, I think. I can't remember. He bails out the automotive industry, and he does all kinds of things. He has a stimulus package to try to get people going. He has a lot of that's on his plate. Well, during his time, though, in the Middle East, kind of go back to foreign affairs, there's this thing called the Arab Spring. This is a bunch of revolts across the Middle East. Okay, it's a bunch of revolts across the Middle East where a democracy, it looks like democracy, or at least people want a different path to what they're doing, and this leads to a lot of different things. We talked about Egypt. Egypt has two of them. They overthrow one dictator. They decide they don't like the next guy that they get in there, and they throw him out as well. Libya is a big deal, and this is kind of where the Benghazi stuff comes from. Libya is kind of unstable, and Benghazi happens, and that's where the Hillary Clinton email scandals come from. Is that Benghazi event, and then eventually all this Arab Spring is going to lead to Syria, right? It's going to lead to Syria. So Libya, Egypt, Syria, these three countries are all part of the Arab Spring. Egypt starts it. Syria is still kind of on that last hole. Got that last hold. Still a terrible place to be. Terrible wars and things like that we've talked about in class. Now, out of the Syrian war and out of us pulling out of Iraq leads to ISIS. All right, and ISIS is going to be a major deal. Remember, their whole thing was to cause the end of the world, which, like I said in class, this is like a 1983 bad film. We're going to end the world, and that's what these guys want to do. They think that they're going to, end the world and get all their paradise and everything like that, and that's their thing. In order to do that, though, they need a caliphate. Okay, they need a caliphate. So ISIS needs a caliphate. Al Qaeda does not need a caliphate, but ISIS needs one. If ISIS can get a caliphate, they're good. And the way to get a caliphate for them is they have to own territory. So they have to take over these territories. They have to get that territory, and then they have to hold it and have a caliphate. And then ultimately their goal is to make everybody mad at them so they can have their ultimate big in the battle, and then boom, they get their paradise. And a long story short, so that is the big deal about ISIS. Okay, whereas in ISIS, they just want to kill people, right? Like they don't care who dies as long as it kills people and pushes the agenda of the end of the world. Whereas Al Qaeda, they were different because they wanted a big spectacle, like the World Trade Center. They want symbolism, and they want huge major terrorist attacks. Whereas ISIS, take a couple pop shots at whoever, right? That's the big difference. That's the big, I guess, I don't want to say theological, crazy agenda is that ISIS kill whatever, and Al Qaeda wants a big, big, big scale event. That's kind of their goal there. And so ISIS starts to take power. Obama gets a lot of flack for calling them the JV team and things like that. And once they kill James Foley, the reporter, and they start killing some other people, Barack Obama finally has to intervene. He intervenes. He bombs some stuff. It really weakens ISIS, and ISIS really kind of shrinks. And then in comes Donald Trump. Donald Trump comes in, and he's kind of finished off ISIS today, and they're kind of not around and everything like that. Now, the last thing that we talked about was how did Donald Trump get elected. Remember I showed you that video of I think it's like a 10-minute long video of experts predicting that Donald Trump was going to lose. There's no way Donald Trump's going to win, and he's not going to win. He's not going to win. All this stuff, and so a lot of weird things happen there. Okay, remember a lot of weird things happen is first there was a section of America, kind of the new silent majority, and that was the blue-collar workers, blue-collar white workers here in America. They have felt forgotten all through the Obama era, and George W. Bush, really. They feel kind of forgotten, and they feel like Trump is a voice for them. They finally feel like somebody hasn't forgotten about them, and they say, hey, this guy tells it the way it is. This guy understands what I'm going through. He wants to get me a job. I want a job, and that's one aspect is that's one aspect of Donald Trump getting elected. Sorry, I got to play with the test again here. And then the next thing is Hillary Clinton did not get the votes that she should have got. Barack Obama got a large bit of minority votes, African Americans, women. He got a huge majority of that, and Hillary Clinton simply did not get that. Right? She did not get those votes that Barack Obama was able to get, and it's not that they went to Donald Trump. Donald Trump didn't have those votes. He didn't get a lot of minority votes, and we mentioned in class Donald Trump got less votes than both Mitt Romney and John McCain, and they both lost. So Donald Trump won and had less votes than the last two losers. So what that tells us is that people just did not come out to vote for Hillary. They either voted third party or they just didn't show up to the polls, which is why all the polls, or while all the pollsters was all messed up. When it looked like Hillary was going to win with a landslide, they assumed that the people that came out for Barack Obama would, and they didn't, and they just couldn't vote for Hillary. And young people my age and younger, didn't vote for either one of them. They wrote a bunch of people in. So there's these three groups of people that just didn't vote for Hillary, didn't vote for Trump. So there's a low turnout for these two presidential elections, and then Hillary just did not get those minorities that she needed. And another big reason why Trump had a lot of support from a lot of people is that he had a perceived strength compared to Obama's perceived weakness. So a lot of these people who are Trump supporters, they think that Barack Obama was this really weak president. The comments like the JV team and not doing what they need to do against ISIS, what a lot of people thought. And Trump comes in and he's talking their language, saying we're going to blow everything up, we're going to take them out, we're going to blah blah blah, and people like that. They like that authoritative power there. So it's his perceived strength, Trump's perceived strength versus Obama's perceived weakness helped him in. And then ultimately, the big thing, one of the big reasons why Donald Trump wins is Hillary had too much political baggage. She had way too much political baggage ever since the 90s. Ever since she was the first lady, Republicans have been making her a character. Okay, they've been making her a character, and they've been just absolutely bashing her, trying to figure out anything they can find to make her look bad politically, because they know that she is going to be a president candidate one day, and people just can't stand her. Conservatives just cannot stand her, and it did not help her out at all in those things. So that's really the four main reasons why Donald Trump is able to become president, because of that. Okay, and don't forget, I feel like it's a pretty good summary of everything as we go through those three presidents. This test is a little bit shorter than other tests, but it's the first test, so I'm trying to make it easy. There are those 5 essay topics. You want to make sure that you can write a pretty good essay on those things, okay? You want to be able to do the 5 paragraphs. Make sure you got a introduction, paragraph, so you can write a good paragraph or good essay on one of those 5 topics. So you'll have, out of those 5 topics at the bottom of your study guide, will be those things, okay? And I feel like I went through about everything pretty quick there. So I hope you study. Good luck. I hope this video finds you well. And next time we'll have a live stream, so maybe we can kind of communicate a little bit better and things like that, because I won't be an old man. I don't know how to use the internets or the YouTubes, but hopefully next time I will. So sorry about that again. I hope you have a nice night. Good night.